What if your phone is not actually the problem? But the problem is that we are not bored anymore. If we're like on a bus ride, we can listen to a podcast, we can listen to music, we can constantly see, hear, and have all these like external stimulations in case we feel bored. That's a huge problem because if you have looked after kids, if you do something with them, like play a board game, they constantly get bored. They keep saying like, oh, I want to do something different now. There's one thing that kids a lot of times do if they feel bored. After feeling that small like frustration of being bored, their fantasy starts playing. So now, instead of being in the living room, they have this fantasy of saying like, let's say, oh, we are pirates on a boat and the sofa is the boat. And they come up with these stories. That is something that we miss as adults, and that's why kids are like so creative, because they have so much space. After those boredom stage, they come up with ideas. I realize that when I take showers without listening to music, after overcoming this boredom of where you feel like, oh, this is so boring, I need some kind of stimulation. And that's usually when naturally you would grab your phone. But if you don't bring your phone with you, your mind will start to wander, and that is what you want. Because me having worked in the creative field as a graphic designer and content creator for an agency, I constantly spent time on social media at work trying to look for different trends and different ways of editing. The problem is, doing that, you tend to, I don't want to say copy, but you get inspired by different people having different styles. But there's one magic thing that happens once you get bored. You come up with solutions for problems. Sometimes we go to work and we have this problem, and then we go home and we're like still thinking about that problem constantly. And you feel like the clock is ticking, there's a deadline, you need to have a solution. And the best way to find a solution is by being bored, letting your mind wander. And it doesn't happen if you're on social media, because that way something external like the algorithm is in your mind and just making you decide on what to think about right now, seeing those videos. I actually have some examples of when I was bored, the ideas that I came up with that I want to share with you. Because I have a lot of plants, and I don't know, you probably all know this like spraying bottle thingy. I wanted to buy, but at the same time I was like, I don't want to spend like $6 or $10 for like some plastic spray bottle. Like, I don't need it. One time that when I was taking a shower, I was thinking like, I have this travel size bottles for like traveling, and there was like a spray bottle with it. And now I can use the spray for like spraying my plants. And I didn't have to pay anything because I already bought it and I never found use for that particular thing. It's like so simple, but a lot of times if we're never bored and we don't have our mind wandering, then this is not happening, and we don't even think of something that is this small and it seems like, oh, why have I never thought of this before? And it's because your mind didn't wander. Another thing is, when I bought my iPad and everyone in class had like a keyboard, and I was looking up keyboards for iPads and stuff like that, and they come with the cases, all handy, but they were all around like $100, €100. And I was bored again, and then I came up with the idea that I have a computer with a wireless keyboard. I can just use that for my iPad because it connects through Bluetooth. But I never thought of this before until I was bored enough. And it's not just small things, it can be bigger things too. Sometimes, like I said, problems at work, you will come up with solutions if you go for a run without headphones, if you decide to do something and you put your phone away, if you just sit in your room without any distractions, or you might get so bored that you actually do the things you kept procrastinating about. Being bored is such an incredible tool that I feel like once we get into adulthood, we don't think about this anymore. And because being bored feels uncomfortable and we want to change that, we grab the things that's closest to us that can get us away from boredom. That is the problem. Let yourself be bored for a certain period of time of the day, every day. Another thing, believe it or not, I started my YouTube channel out of boredom. It was when I was unemployed for a pretty long time and I didn't know what to do with my life. And I knew like being on social media, having so much screen time, it did not make me feel any better. Once you're so bored that you're like, every day seems to be the same thing. I want change, but I can't afford to move somewhere else or to do this and that. And then you come up with solutions within the resources that you have. You don't need all this like camera gear and all these fancy things to be able to start a YouTube channel. You can just use your phone. That's what I did. And once you get into those new habits, and you just come up with solutions constantly. And that's the problem. If you find inspiration online, a lot of times these other people have different resources. Someone else might have more money than you. Some other people might have more time than you. Some people might have a different family background, different support system. So you constantly feel like, oh, in order to be successful, these things are missing in my life. So you keep thinking, it's not meant for me, or I don't have the same resources. But the way that we all are unique in the things that we experience in life, the background that we have, it's so individual. So everyone brings something to the table that someone else doesn't. Everyone has a privilege compared to someone else. And just because you feel like you don't have privileges because the place that you come from and the financial background or support system that you have doesn't mean that you can use these specific things to rewrite your story and to have other people identifying themselves with you and with your story. And that's all that it takes in the beginning. Whatever you want to start, if you are an entrepreneur, you don't know where to start, usually what helps is if you turn off all these devices that keep telling you this is the perfect YouTube strategy. Like, everyone's personality is so different that you don't have this one size fits all. What works for me might not work for someone else, and vice versa. So stop comparing yourself, and the best way to do that is, again, turn off the devices, let yourself be bored, be that kid again that comes up with this whole story of the pirate ship in your living room. Just because we are adults doesn't mean that we have to lose this part of our identity, that creative self, and we need to embrace that. So I encourage you all to be bored and see the potential that lies in boredom. It's something that you usually don't really think about until you experience it and you're like, why did I not start sooner? It was because it feels a little bit frustrating in the beginning. It's like you're not patient, you want that stimulation, but you don't need it. And your brain will start showing you pictures. And there's one interesting study that they did with people at this jail. What's it called again? Alcatraz? Something like that. They had this one jail cell that was completely pitch black. And what happened with the people that were sent in there for days or weeks is that with time, their brain was showing them images, kind of like a movie that they were seeing, light and different things. And that's the same thing. Your brain starts to wander because you're so bored. This is like an extreme version because not seeing anything for like an extended period of time is crazy. But what I'm saying is you can do the simple version of that by just knowing this and that distracts me. So I will actively put these devices away from me that take me out of the boredom. I hope you liked this video. I hope you're going to stay tuned for the next one. Bye!